to.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:04, and just as a note, we have Councillor Prestige is not with us tonight. We have Councillor Dean, Councillor Kulkin, Councillor Burrows, and Councillor Cush are physically here in chambers, and then Councillor Williams and Councillor Wilhelm are joining us virtually online. Councillor Williams, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And Councillor Wilhelm?
Yes, sir.
Very good. With that, I will start with adoption of the agenda. Any additions from admin?
No.
Anything from council?
Yeah,
Councillor,
I would like to, I don't know if this is an appropriate spot, but there's been much discussion about a left turn light turning south onto West Mountain Road off of Highway 43. Anybody that's had to make that turn, even in non-peak hours, it's often, so right at the Flying J,
yeah.
when you're turning left, if you're westbound on Highway 43, there's no left turning lane there. The truck traffic that pulls into the mill, there is, but for any traffic turning left, there is not. And I've had numerous questions from residents as to whether that's something that we can maybe push along with transportation. So again, I don't know if that's appropriate to put on here. We already have 4 items, but I wanted on the horizon.
It's in the town too, that portion, and then, but.
Mr. Chairman, that would be an item that would have to go to council, not the GMP committee.
Okay.
And a request should be emailed to admin, and then an RFD could be prepared.
Okay, so I respect that, but just a question from process. Is there an opportunity to do a notice of motion at this meeting to take it to council? No?
No.
Okay, so I need to send them, will do, thank you.
You could do a notice of motion at the next council meeting.
Right.
I think the idea is that we're a week away from the next council meeting, so you wouldn't have time to really deal with it, so.
Right, yeah.
But if you wanna do it at that council meeting, or,
I'll just send you an email. Yeah, thanks.
okay, anything further from council? Councillor Kulkin?
I'll make a motion that the GMP committee adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
In favor.
Thank you, Councillor Williams and Councillor Wilhelm. Okay, we'll go with item 3.1, adoption of the minutes of the 8th of March 2023 meeting. Any errors or omissions there? Councillor Cush.
I'll make a motion to move the minutes to March 8th as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? I hear none, I see none. All in favor?
Favor.
In favor.
Thank you, councillors. That is passed. We have no delegations. We'll go to business arising, which is policy 6211, amend low-income benefits program eligibility values. And Heather, you're going to take us through this.
Good evening, Reeve and Council. So before you is amendment by Council's request to policy 6211, the low income benefits program. At your April 5th council meeting, we discussed amending the LICOs for, I know you don't like acronyms, but the low income cutoffs. And we discussed that you would prefer to use the Family and Community Support Services Low Income Volunteer Tax Program. Those values are in your background. So one person being 30,000, income 40,000 for 2 people, 3, 42,000, 5, and every dependent after that, you add 2,500. So the intent of this policy was to create meaningful assistance to those in our municipality that needed it. And so keeping that in mind, and also to be inclusive to everyone that needs it, not just a specific target group. It's not to be an entitlement. It was meant to assist people. COVID and the current economy has really affected our municipality. We have several residents that are struggling to pay their bills, let alone travel in for medical appointments, which is what this policy would do. And it also, by going by age instead of by going by income instead of age, we're actually giving people that actually need it the assistance, so I just want you to keep that in mind. But we were also the only municipality until 2023 to have a transportation grant for anyone, let alone seniors. Cold Lake started, it was effective January 1st. Cold Lake has transportation, it's medical transportation grant it's called. And I found this out prior to you receiving your RFD, but I can tell you that they're doing the same thing we are. They have the same amounts and they're going income-based instead of age-based. And they have the same money in their budget that we do. They actually put $40,000 in. And she actually told me that they're gonna review it in a couple of years, just as we have planned. So there's more municipalities going in this direction based on that. I think that's about it before you wanted to go into discussion. There were a few other changes. If we're going to amend the policy, we thought, well, let's have a look, see if we missed something. So there are other changes highlighted in the draft policy. If you want me to highlight them, I can go over them with you.
You may as well, unless council doesn't want to go over the highlights. No, yes?
Go for it.
Okay. So in section 2.5 in the policy, we have highlighted, we changed the definition of low income so that we are in with alignment with what you wanted as opposed to the federal LICOs, we're going to those provincial LICOs. So we changed that. We also changed in 3.1B, we added in there that they must meet the eligibility requirements per section 3.4. So they have to meet those cutoffs but own the property to get the tax rebate. We just wanted to clarify that. In 3.2, we wanted to highlight that if you're under 18, you still qualify, but the funds would go to the parent. We didn't actually say that we just said we would disperse it per person, and we needed to actually say that it would be released to a guardian, and that they also have to meet the requirements of that 3.4 of the policy, where we mentioned the low income. And then we included 3.4 eligibility. So this breaks down everything, all the changes that you wanted, and where those numbers come from. So those were the main changes to the policy at this time.
Okay.
And we did discuss reviewing this policy in 2 years based on our intake in the next little bit.
Okay. Any questions to admin? Anyone online? Can you hear the presentation okay? Everybody online?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like the new changes.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Dean.
So no questions, but I want to come back to the original policy before the changes. That policy was in existence for a number of years, and Heather, maybe you can help. When was that policy enacted? 20 years ago?
Yeah, yes, at least I think 2001 was the last that I can recall anyway.
Certainly it was in effect when I joined council in 2007. And while I understand that some municipalities are moving away from that, and Cold Lake was the only one that had a similar policy than us, for me, that's not a reason to start amending a policy. Just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean that I have to do it. I was very proud of the fact that we recognized our seniors this way. The green flags that were out there when I drive around, that lets me know that a senior lives there. And from the question I'd asked Heather back in January, I believe, the amount we had budgeted for that transportation grant was on the order of $40,000, and it was fully subscribed. And yeah, you can find people that don't require the funds. Again, I come back to the intent of the policy, and in my mind, it was to recognize seniors and the contributions that they've made to this county for decades, for literally decades. I have no problem with another one, another policy like this that is specifically aimed at low-income people, but I'm not in favor of taking this away from seniors. I also think that businesses, and specifically agricultural businesses, often don't produce a lot of income on the CRA balance sheet. You know, the farm pays all of the expenses, all the living expenses, all the fuel expenses, and the income that is actually attributed to the proprietor is very, very low. That's an example of somebody that could then utilize this amended low-income eligibility that some people might say, well, they don't need it. So I think there's opportunity for abuse on both sides of this. But to come back to what I'm saying, it's my measured and strong opinion that I don't think this council should be taking that policy that was specifically aimed at seniors away.
Okay. Councillor Kush?
When
And
this,
then I see Councillor Williams' hand up online. I'll get you next, Councillor Williams. Go ahead.
when this initially came up, we had a discussion, and I'm assuming you probably weren't here for that one. I had mentioned the same thing, you know, concern about the seniors and how many we might be excluding or what, you know, people who actually use it and whatnot. And my understanding is we want to, they don't, I don't want to say, the belief was a majority of the people that are actually seniors and utilizing the program currently are actually going to still fall into this program. So I think we were going to try to run it and just see where it was at, and if there was any concerns or whatever from residents who currently are utilizing it and then weren't able to, then we at least had some way to quantify or, you know, kind of go from there and then amend the policy if we needed to. So I agree. I don't like taking stuff away from seniors, but you know, your example of, say, somebody who has the equipment and maybe can use it, you know, that doesn't just have to be agriculture. You can have an acreage owner who's, you know, 65 plus, has a skid steer and a tractor and everything sitting there too, and they could just as well do it on their own, and they, you know, currently qualify for it also.
Okay. I'm just gonna get Councillor Williams and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I just need to clarify what I was saying.
Okay, Councillor Williams.
If Councillor Dean wanted to clarify that first, I can wait till he's done too. It's okay.
Okay, Councillor Williams yields, so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, to Councillor Cush, what I meant was that a proprietor that has a business, that has the business pay the vast majority of the household expenses, could then keep their net income very low and then would qualify for this, whether or not they have equipment. So it wasn't the fact that they had a skid steer or a tractor with a plow sitting in their yard. It was the fact that they could utilize this policy and from a net worth position be worth millions of dollars. You understand what I'm saying?
Just
Okay, I don't wanna get this to do a conversation just quite, but Councillor Kush, go ahead.
just that, but all I'm saying is in that same retrospect, though, we have people currently who qualify just by age and whatnot, and also, you know, they might not be business, might not be whatever, but they have all the equipment sitting there too. And they could be people also that qualify for it, but could be doing it on their own as well. It's just the kind of both ends of it. And
Councillor Williams.
I was just going to add that I agree with Councillor Dean. I've done a lot of talking in the community with kind of all ages of people, and most of them all support the senior side of it more than it being a low income, because of some of the reasons that Councillor Dean brought up as well. Is lots of people are contractors or farmers or whatever that can have a lower income on paper personally, that there's more of a chance of this being abused that way than the few seniors that may have been doing it. I don't think we're overrun with millionaire seniors in Woodlands County, but a lot of them do have where they've sold off some things and they have an account that they pull money out of that They don't currently have income, but they have a little bit of savings, so their actual income goes over the 30,000, but not by much. So there's just a lot of concern with the seniors that aren't going to be eligible for this, that are pensioners that just have saved money their whole lives and now they're pulling out of their savings. So RSPs and things like that, that now is taxable. So I'm in favor of doing something still to support the seniors and not go away from that completely with this.
Okay. Anyone else wish to? It's a tough one, I know.
Yeah, just,
There was one question I'm gonna ask, because when we were talking about the disability portion of it, we wanted to make sure that, anyone that had the sticker for their car, the little thing for their car, no matter what age they were or whatever, if you got to that point, you qualify for a snowplow flag. I don't know why I cannot say snowplow flag.
Yeah.
But that was in here, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to read this as I'm doing it, and,
If you look at in the
Eligible.
definitions, 2.7, we do mention physically disabled.
right. And you just bring in your sticker.
Yeah. You just need a doctor's note.
And you got your flags. Okay. Anyone else? Counselor Culkin.
yeah, I understand, I understand Councillor Dean's concern here because I know how the agriculture piece of that works, and we can defer, we can shift our income a ton of different ways, which would actually show a net of zero on our line 150, I believe it is. So, personally, I don't subscribe to this program, even though I could do that, because I feel that I don't have to, right? But I think that on the other side of the coin is that there may be some seniors that would be in the same position that would only be at that level. So it's a tough one, but I do agree it's the seniors that we want to take care of here. So how do we manipulate that one?
Anyone got a suggestion? Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify why I mentioned Cold Lake, just that we were the only ones that did it for years, and now they're actually saying, hey, our residents need help. So they're not doing it necessarily excluding anyone, like, then I just mentioned that there are people that are going, you guys are doing good things, we're gonna do it too. So, which was nice to hear that they're also looking at their residents, but they're also a city and they're giving up to $600 per year, but.
Yeah. Counselor Dean?
So this is gonna get referred to council. That's the recommended action. And it's probably not gonna be heard at the next meeting, likely sometime later, but my recommendation would be to retain the seniors transportation grant and enact this one as well.
Counselor Cush?
I'm not against that. My only concern with that would be what's the possible implication on the budget though. If we're doing what was like a $40,000 budget before, I'm not exactly sure the number for the snowplow, and now in the last policy, we're adding more to the policy, but we're keeping the budget the same. It's, we might not have the funds to then appropriately help the people that we're looking for.
Counselor Dean?
So this new policy doesn't come into effect until July. We know historically that it's been fully subscribed. So has there ever been a situation where we're fully subscribed, a senior comes in to get a snowplow, they're eligible because they've only had one or two, and they're told no, they can't get a snowplow?
The difference with that is the snowplow flags actually don't cost us, like that $50 is what we charge. There isn't a fee.
So has anybody had a transportation request denied because there was no funds in the budget?
No, we've always been just kind of cusping on that little
Sure.
We've gone a little bit over, but we're always cusping on that same amount.
So I think we're gonna, if there were two policies that ran independently, I think we're gonna have to find new money. But not until essentially next budget season, because the new one's not gonna come into effect until July. That's when the new policy people would become eligible and they'd start to subscribe to it.
Councillor Kush?
This new policy comes into effect in July, that would make it eligible for this winter season. We already have a budget out for this year.
It's a year long, so July to July.
No, the transportation, the 40,000 is for both intakes that we have from June. Like, there's 2 intakes, but it covers the entire year, so, Councillor Kush, your point is right, because even if we allow seniors, we'd have that same senior, so, and we subscribe it, but we're gonna have other people opening it up, not the flags for the transportation grant, so we only budgeted 40,000, thinking that with it coming into effect in July, we would balance out with losing some seniors but gaining low-income residents. So
Yeah, so.
we don't have,
So just to complete that thought, the transportation portion of it, people will start subscribing right away or asking right away. The flag portion of it, there's probably only 3 months remaining in 2023 that they'd actually get flags. And what Heather is saying is that, I mean, it costs the county money, but it's not a budgeted amount. I think we can, for that 6-month period, I'm pretty sure we can find the money.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, I want to bring this back on track because we kind of talked about people gaming systems and this kind of thing, and I don't think that was the intent around that. The idea was that we only have so much money to do a targeted relief on this, and how do we get that to people that need it? How do we keep them in homes? Because we have people right now that are in Woodlands that are on the cusp of not being able to live in their homes anymore. That was my thoughts around doing something like this, around the tax relief, especially with the inflation, the supply chain issues. They can't get labor to do simple things. It's the cost of everything is just through the roof right now, and it's really hurting people. So, and at the budget end of things, we had so much in the budget. So, we talked about this as we went through, but if I'm not in favor of putting more money in the budget for it. Is the problem. I think we've got some huge infrastructure problems coming up. I think we've tightened the purse strings up really hard. And, we know we're gonna see some of those debentures coming up in the next little while, and we've still got debentures to pay for, so. I don't know, we're gonna have to make a hard choice on this one, or just leave it alone and stay with the old policy. Is that Councillor Williams? Councillor Williams, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'd be in favor of keeping the seniors, and maybe this go back to the drawing board, because low income, if you don't fall into a senior category or disabled, do you have to have all of these things? Do you have to have snowplow flags? Do you have to have all of that stuff? I think we should leave the senior one alone and maybe rethink this a little bit, or maybe if times get a little better, we can add something to another policy. I agree on adding the disabled side into it for sure, though, if possible.
So, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna ask a question of Councillor Williams for clarification. So you're saying add the disabled part into the snowplow flag qualification? Did I say that right? Snowplow flag qualification? That's what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think that adding them in makes total sense to the whole policy. And then maybe we can look at something and go forward for the low income side to have some inclusivity into that. But yeah, I think that the old policy was working really well. There's the one-offs, that maybe didn't need it that did subscribe to it, but I think that's not as common as what could happen with this one.
Let me just ask a question to our administration. How many, did you do any numbers? Do you have any idea how many residents would fall below that 30,000?
In the low income, we don't have access to
Yeah.
those numbers.
There's no educated guess or anything?
Joan and I discussed just what we know, that it would, again, balance out. That's why we didn't adjust the budget. But this is supposed to take effect July 1st.
Yeah.
So we were thinking that, like, as I mentioned, that we would probably lose some seniors, but we'd gain low income.
Mhm.
But we've been marketing this for months. We've been in utilities, so that's just my main concern, is that we've already said we're doing it. And
Right.
it's approved, so I don't know.
Councillor Kush?
I still think the recommendation we originally had for rolling this program out, and then if there are issues with some of the seniors that maybe qualified but don't qualify now and need the program, we can, at least get that data, we know what we're working with. We can help out the other residents and stuff that need here. We can see, by the end of this year, before we get to our next budget season, we should have an idea, what it's gonna look like. We might have to adjust maybe the numbers or something coming into, when we look at it January, February, but we might have an idea that maybe it's not as utilized with the travel reimbursement and whatnot for our disabled people that need it, or for medical expenses ahead of time. It might not be as, as prescribed or subscribed through the summer, and it might just end up going back to where it is. But they've been advertising it. We have the possibility to roll out something that does have the ability to benefit more people. I don't like taking away from a bunch of the seniors, but on the other hand, we can see it might not be that big of an effect. There might not be that many of them that are actually not utilizing it, that won't be able to utilize it. Like Councillor Kuhlman, for example, he could qualify for it now, but doesn't. And it might not be a big point at the end of the year anyways.
Councillor Dean?
Yeah, what you say is, in all due respect, is speculation, right? We don't know, and we've asked administration, you asked if there was a ballpark. And even that conversation between you and Joan, that's speculation. We have no idea. Another scenario is that we could get into October, and if we abandon the seniors policy and go to this policy only, we could get into October, November and be fully subscribed, and then we have to turn people away. Like, that's a scenario. I'm speculating as well, but we don't know. And I just, again, it's the last time I'll say it, I'm just not in favor of taking this policy away from the seniors, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, well, Councillor Williams, I see you had your hand up.
It was this one. Oh, because we changed it to 3.
Councillor Williams, are you having trouble?
Oh, I got it back now. I couldn't hear you guys for a little bit. I couldn't hear what Councillor Dean said, but I was going to just talk to Councillor Cush's point there of trialing this. The problem is, I've talked to quite a few, and I can direct them on to other councillors too, but they know they're not going to be eligible for this, and they did utilize this program, and it's not by $100,000 they're over the cutoffs, but they have quite a few have vocalized that they will be over that threshold, and they're not mad, but they're definitely disappointed. Like, one of them said, I bragged about how Woodlands County treated their seniors, and now it's kind of getting taken away. And a lot of the ones that I'm talking to have been here for their entire lives. They're 75 years old, widows that it's sometimes not even about the money. It's about the ability to plow their driveways out and things like that. So, yeah, I can't get on board with trialing something that excludes them that we've had in place that's really seemed to work quite well for a long time.
Okay. I don't know why we went this far down the process if we're here and scrapping this. So if the motion is to scrap it, then let's get it on with it. Because yeah, we just want to say with the Able program, we should have that conversation earlier, Councillor Dean.
Yeah, and I'll take the bullet on that one, Mr. Reed. So I was at the community services meetings where this subject came up. I missed the GMP where this was discussed, and then I missed the council meeting where GMP referred it to council and council passed it. The council meeting, I was at my son's wedding, so I don't make an apology for that. But the arguments that I'm making now, I would have made at both the GMP and at the council meeting. So that's why I'm voicing my opinion about it now.
Councillor Kush.
Through administration, how much, we'll say, interest or uptake in the program that you put out so far has administration getting, feedback or whatnot from the public?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. A few phone calls, a couple angry people, a couple really good responses saying thank you for being fiscally responsible with taxpayers' money. So it kind of, there's been both. There's been support. The Fort Friendship Club was in support of it when I presented it to them back last October, I think I was there. So there's been no official letters, just phone calls, basically, but.
Just spitballing here, since we have no idea what this program is gonna do for us, financially, this is how much? 40?
40.
What if we were to run, is there a way we could find 10 in the budget to run this and alongside the other program? And then if it runs out, it runs out?
The problem with doing it that way is just, if I
That
can speak,
overlap.
it's
Yes,
an
please.
administrative restraint. So, but if you want to keep the seniors, we could just adapt the policy to say a senior or low income, like we would include it that way.
Mhm.
Running two programs concurrently would be very difficult. Well, not difficult, it can be done.
Mhm.
But if it'd just be cleaner if it was all in one policy, because, and say if you're a senior, you're 65, you qualify. If you're low income at this amount, you qualify. If you're disabled at this amount, you qualify. So we could include the seniors. There, like I said, it would just be the budget implications, and I don't know about that.
Okay, so the tax rebate program, they never had before, right?
Right.
That's new. So if that one stays as needs-based, then you're not taking anything away.
And we could write it so that the tax rebate would stay as low income, as it was initially suggested.
Go ahead, Andre.
Just one question to the committee. If snow flags are the issue, our historical information is that it costs between ballpark $5,000 and $5,500 a year for free snow flags for seniors, if that's the issue.
Councillor Kush?
Just give, and again, this is all speculation, new policy, we don't have numbers. What if council were to have this amended to be able to allow snow flags still for 65 over, keep it at the budgetary at 40,000, if we're getting close to that, have administration bring it back so we can at least see where the policy sits at. Because there might be a bunch of people on the snow flag side of things that would fall into this policy, that will also fall in the other one. Maybe we're not looking at, you know, $20,000-$30,000. Maybe we're only looking at maybe another like 2 to 5 at the end. You know, maybe it's not, I'm just speculating again, maybe the financial impact isn't gonna be what we do, or as big as we're possibly anticipating. So maybe we just leave the budget where it is, add 65 plus to the snow flags in this, put the policy out, and if we get to 40,000, if we don't have more, that's just the end of the policy for this budget year.
Yeah, I think that's doable. We're just gonna have to start really marketing again, because we were going to have to market anyway with the new amount, so it wouldn't be difficult. It's doable. Just puts us a little bit behind the 8 ball because it takes effect July 1st, but that's not a big deal. We can make it
Councillor
happen.
Dean?
What would you have to market if we're just adding? So you've already marketed.
We've been marketing the changes in the program and the old numbers for that LICO, so we would just say that we've increased it and we've included, we're gonna retain seniors in there.
Sure.
It wouldn't be
Right.
hard.
And that's a compromise. I said I wouldn't say this again. I'm just not in favor of abandoning any part of that seniors policy.
Councillor Kush?
I make a motion that the GMP committee forward policy 6211, amended low-income benefits program to council for their considerations with the addition of snow flags being available for residents 65 and older. That work?
Not the transportation grant part?
I was just going off the whole
That was-
recommendation, just adding the 65 plus on the snow flags.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was just reading the recommendation, adding the one part.
okay.
So you recommended changes?
But the transportation grant doesn't, it's income-based, it's not age-based, which is what I was assuming was also,
So we would amend it to 65 or over get snow flags.
I thought just 65 and over for the snow plows and leave the rest of your policy as amended.
Yes.
So you're saying the transportation grant would still be on the LICO?
yeah,
And
Yeah.
that's
snowplows
okay?
Snowplows is 65 and,
Okay,
Yeah. So the rest of your policy as you have it,
okay,
and then just add the snow flags
Snow
for
flags,
65
okay.
plus.
done.
okay. You have the motion? Corinne,
We're all
okay?
trusting the superstar.
I just, there's a lot of shock and awe going on right now, so I just wanna make sure we're good. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Counselor Wilhelm, I haven't heard from you, so I'm not putting any pressure, I wanna, hello, that you're there.
I did have my hand up earlier, but you guys kind of got around to what I was gonna say, so then I just figured I'd let you guys, the conversation continue on, because what you guys were saying was what I was gonna say anyways.
Okay. All right, so no one wishing to speak to the motion? I don't see anyone. I'll call motion then. All in favor?
Favored.
That's 3. And opposed?
Opposed.
3, it's a tie. A tie is a loss. So the motion is lost. Okay. So, Councillor Dean.
So I've never been in this situation before where something that's going from GMP to council has been lost. If this was at council, we'd just move to the next agenda item. Or what, is that what we're doing now?
We can, it is,
Somebody's gonna have to say something to change somebody's mind. It doesn't sound like any, we've had considerable discussion on it.
Councillor Kush?
Just not sure, I thought we had kind of a, something there, we got both the best, where we got the 65 plus, we weren't excluding anybody on the flags. We were able to work in this policy, I thought that's kind of what we were working towards.
But we're excluding the seniors from their transportation grant, which is different than the snowflakes. So they're allowed to apply for $300.
Councillor Williams, I see your hand is up.
I was just gonna say, I would, if we could do something with keeping the seniors, keeping everything for the seniors and doing a partial for the low income, I would be definitely in favor of that. Like the tax rebate and the $300 transportation, but maybe not the snowplow flags or something like that, rather than everything to the low income and the seniors only get the flags. Does that make any sense?
I don't know, I'm honestly, I got smoke coming out of my head from trying to figure this out, so. Counselor Dean?
Well, I'll make a motion and then we can vote on this one and discuss it before. I make a motion that we retain the seniors transportation grant and that the GMP committee forwards policy 6211, amended low income benefits program, to council for their consideration.
Amended low income, so this policy.
This policy, and we retain the seniors transportation grant.
Okay, but we talked about, yeah, okay, well, the motion's on the floor, yeah, okay.
That makes sense.
The, Counselor Kush, I'll let you,
Just
go ahead.
in motion, but does the seniors transportation grant though, that'll exclude snowflakes for 65 plus?
No, that's part of the current seniors program.
You said seniors transportation grant.
So clarify that for me.
Part of the transportation grant is the snowflakes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, except that when I think I asked administration about running the two policies concurrently and said it'd be a disaster, so it'd just be easier to, how did you word it?
If we amend it to say that you are eligible, when we go to the eligibility, I gotta bring it in front of me. If you go to 3.4, where we mention that you have to provide a copy of your tax assessment, part of that eligibility would be that you're 65. You just have to prove you're 65. So then they could apply for any part of these programs if they're a senior. But then low income could also apply. That's the cleanest way, to say that if that's what you want to do, instead of having two policies overlapping, because then this would just be the tax rebate, because the seniors transportation grant includes both travel and such. So if you retain this policy, which was adopted in November, you're just amending it to include 65 and older also are eligible.
Okay, it's cleaner, I just, what do we do when we run out of money? So, and this is the problem, we don't know where we're gonna run out of money on it. Or do we turn people away, or? Andre?
Mr. Chairman, committee, so that's something the committee would have to recommend to council. Either it goes until they hit the budget, or at a certain point in time, an RFD comes back to council identifying where the finances are, and if council at the time chooses to increase the funding or to leave it as is. But the motion should have a date or a timeline to have an RFD come back to council.
Okay, well, we still have a motion on the floor to send this to council, the way it's written, and keep the seniors transportation grant policy running too.
The motion was a little cumbersome, perhaps. What I'm hearing administration say is that we should include either that timeline or a date. But could we do that at the council meeting? And just refer this to council for consideration?
That's doable. From an administrative point of view, running two parallel programs is going to be difficult. Council may choose to amend it to include what Heather was saying, to basically combine the two.
Yeah, and I'm fine with amending my motion to, that's my intent. Like, I don't want to create more work for you guys. So you tell us what it should say. What should it say?
That's my written.
Andre's might be,
Through the chair to the committee, I would recommend that the committee makes the recommendation as is to council. Council can have that discussion. There'll be an RFD going to council, and the recommendation in the RFD will be to basically amend this one to include the seniors.
Fair
And
enough.
council can discuss at that time.
And then you can discuss the budgetary cap
Correct.
or,
And that would likely go to the first meeting in May.
okay,
Okay, so I'll rescind my motion then, or withdraw, whatever the correct terminology is.
yep, withdraw is fine.
And I'll move that the Governance and Priorities Committee for draft bylaw 597/23, forwards policy 6211, amended low-income benefits program to council for their consideration and adds the seniors eligibility requirement.
Okay. Does that work for you, Corinne?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, very good. Any questions from council? Anyone speaking for or against? All in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
Okay, that is carried. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
That'll bring us to advertising bylaw 6.1. So this is draft bylaw 597/23, and that is, do I not have this on my screen? Okay, Corinne, you want to take us through this?
Absolutely, Chair. So committee, at your January 11th meeting following the discussion of a local newspaper discontinuing their printed edition and discussing municipal affairs' ability to create a advertising bylaw to tailor advertising needs for required municipal notices, administration has drafted an advertising bylaw for your review. As we discussed in January, the advertising bylaw intends to hit a couple things. It intends to ensure that the municipality is in compliance with advertising required municipal notices. It promotes fiscal responsibility by ensuring that the county is advertising using smart advertising dollars when it's printing a newspaper, given the cost, but also still supporting our residents who get their municipal news in the newspaper. So this bylaw suggests a hybrid model where all the required municipal notices are still in the newspaper, but in a condensed version. You'll see some examples of how those required municipal notices are currently existing in the paper, and then the condensed version just giving the nuggets of what is required, and then allowing the public where they can go get the full details if that's something of interest to them. And all that information would be available on the municipality's website. It would actually allow the municipality to advertise even more, directing our public to the website for anybody who does want that information. So we want to make sure that our public still is getting municipal news information in the papers, because we believe that our public is still reading the papers.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this one? Anyone on the line? No? Counselor Dean?
I'm in support of this. I just wondering why the Express is not in the 2022 newspaper advertising costs.
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, Woodlands County doesn't pay for advertising in the Express because we give them grant funding.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Kush?
Make a motion that the GMP committee forward draft bylaw 597/23, advertising to council for the review and consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Favor?
In favor.
2 in favor, so that sounds like a pass. That is a pass. I shouldn't say it sounds like a pass. Okay, that'll bring us to campaign review and roadside cleanup for policy 3288. Andre.
Sorry, I lost my page here. Over the last couple of years, administration's been reviewing the roadside cleanup policy. The budget is $25,000, and part of the policy identifies that a number of roads are being cleaned that are actually Alberta transportation roads. Actually, the bulk of them are Alberta transportation roads, so administration is just gauging the committee to see if there's a desire to reduce or eliminate the provincial roads that we're cleaning and concentrate on county roads. We could make the mileage the same, and it's just a question before we start working on the policy, bring it to the committee, and there's no desire for that.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Colkin.
I think that if we're doing, the province does their own, has their own cleanup program, correct?
Through the chair, they do.
So I find this is direction we should go, clean up our own roads. And if that's what we have in the budget, I think that's a good way to go.
Councillor Kush.
My question on this, like a bunch of the groups in our area, they do clean up around 751 and stuff like that. What will say like the financial implication for them going to the province, do they fund at these levels? Because I know a lot of them, and especially in our area, when you drive down a lot of the secondary highways, that's where you see a lot of the trash and stuff sitting there. And as far as for the county in general view, if we're focusing on back roads, and I'm not against cleaning up the areas and the ditches in our areas, but a lot of the higher traffic area, you're gonna see the garbage and stuff thrown is gonna be along the secondaries.
Through the chair to Councillor Kush, the province does not provide any funding to any group that cleans provincial highways. They do not provide the county with funding to offset what we're paying groups to clean provincial roads.
Councillor Dean, wait, sorry, I got Councillor Wilhelm first, then Councillor Dean, then Councillor Williams.
I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with this move by administration. I do think that money, like if we're looking at still having the same amount of money to put into local groups to do this work and clean up the roads that are actually our responsibility, I 100% agree with that. And if we don't have maybe enough roadage to fill that, maybe we could look at also including some of the public use or public land use areas or something like that as well, to provide funding to groups to do that, so we can continue to clean up the things that we actually own and take care of within the county. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, Councillor Dean.
So I just wanted to clarify what you said, that the province does not fund. Councillor Colkin had asked, the province has their own cleanup program, and you said they do,
Yes.
but they don't fund, so that,
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, the province does have their own highway cleanup, but they do not pay groups to clean. They provide the bags, the gloves, signage, that's
Okay.
about it.
so what I'm wondering, I understand very clearly what Councillor Kush is saying. You know, some of the volunteer groups, that this is in their budget. You know, they expect to make $2,000 or whatever it is. And I agree, those roads, that's where you see the coffee cups and everything that are flying out the window. If we, if our groups clean up our roads and we haven't exhausted this budget, could we then say, go ahead and clean up the secondary highways and utilize the budget money? Because I'd hate to see those groups have something taken away that they were fully planning on doing.
Andre?
Through the chair, the current program, the county pays for just under 300 kilometers of roads being cleaned. 200 of that is provincial roads. The county has 900 kilometers of road, so we can easily fill that 200 kilometers.
Okay. That works.
Okay, Councillor Williams.
I was just gonna talk to Councillor Kush. I agree with him 100%. Like just in my area over here, the residents driving on their county roads don't seem to be the problem with littering. It's more on the secondary highways. When you drive to the highways, you can see garbage all the time, and on the county roads, I really don't see that much. And a lot of the residents seem to clean that up on their own, anyways, kind of in front of their houses and properties. I participate in this every year, and the highways are definitely where a lot of the trash is. I'm just nervous that that reflects on us if we don't. It doesn't reflect on us, but it might look like our county is not, clean or whatever. And right now, it's awesome. It looks really good when you drive through everywhere. So I'm back and forth because I agree that our county roads, that's where our money should be spent, but the secondary highways in our area are definitely the problem. So I don't mind them being clean personally.
Okay. Councillor Colton.
Well, I look at this from maybe a little bit of a different perspective, is that we budget for cleanup within our municipality. Is the province not paying for that one way or the other to clean up? Is that a download on us to clean their responsibility? Like, I think we need to, maybe look at it that way and maybe ask the province to ante up for their section of road as well.
Good luck.
Good luck, but the reality of it is that another download? Just a question.
So a question to administration based on that then would be, did they ever pay for provincial things?
To the committee, in the last 20 years, they have not paid us. We did reach out last fall to see if they would provide funding for their highways, and the response was no.
So much for a partnership.
Well, I guess maybe the message needs to be sent that, it's a kind of a bad way to do it, but those are your roads. Are we gonna mow them pretty soon too? It's just a
No,
question.
it's
I'm
actually,
sorry.
it's actually really, it's a really valid point, and that's kind of, it's where we get into with a lot of the services, so, the more traveled roads generate more garbage. So there's more littering on the more traveled roads. Typically, the local roads that you're down, you don't, people live there, so they tend not to throw things out the window. The transitory roads are the ones that are gonna see the most litter. That said, they're a provincial highway, so they're not really our, so what do you do? You wanna spend money and clean up where there's the most garbage, but if it's not your garbage and your roadway, then I agree with you, it's a downloading, but I'm gonna go with Councillor, is that Wilhelm? That is Wilhelm, yep.
Hey, I just wanted to comment on that. I absolutely is a download from the Alberta government back to municipalities to clean up their roads. And I think that we can look at it in two ways. If we do focus on cleaning up only our roads, I think that the message needs to go out that this is what's happening, right? We're focusing on putting this funding into the community to clean up the roads that we're actually responsible for. If you're seeing garbage on the highways, contact your MLAs, contact the Alberta government about it, because we want to focus on cleaning up the roads that we're responsible for. So I think if we do move in this direction, I think it needs to come with the communication as well to the public as to why we're moving in that direction, and then also, which roads are we actually responsible for and not responsible for, and then the public isn't going to look at us and be like, oh, they're not taking care of their garbage. It's the Alberta government not taking care of it. So if we do move in this direction, we should make sure we communicate it properly.
Councillor Kush.
My biggest fear, especially with a lot of the secondaries, is the lack of care and attention that the province and their contractors seem to put into maintenance and stuff on those roads as it is. If we're not cleaning up the ditches and stuff in there, and I do agree, you know, it's not our area, but it's still in our county. And if we don't do it this year, we don't do it next year, we don't, the province isn't gonna come and do it. If eventually, you know, like how long did it take for us to get a ruling on the AER? When we went through that whole process, that was years. And you take a look at years of trash out the windows and out the back of vehicles and everything sitting on the sides of the highways, it's not gonna look good for people driving by either. It's, like, I do understand, I mean, putting the focus more on our areas and our sites, but like Councillor Wilhelm was saying, like a lot of those areas where you have a few people live down a road, a lot of the people are pretty, take pride in their communities and the stuff that they have, and if they see it, a lot of the guys, you know, out walking, they pick up garbage, and you don't see a lot of the garbage volume, not to say it's not there, but you don't see the volume on the secondary, on the back roads that you do on the highways. And I would just hate to see that as being something that just keeps mounting up year over year over year, where eventually it's incredibly noticeable when you drive down the road.
Councillor Kuchen.
Yeah, through the chair to your comment, I guess I have to agree with the way that you're approaching that. I don't like to see the garbage either. So then, if we want to come to a solution on this as a committee, maybe what we need to do is we need to suggest in a strong way to the provincial government that maybe through our residents, that they should be picking up the ball for this, because for that type of cleanup, because I think that it is a download. I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and I guess, you know, I don't disagree with you. It's just that let's address it, let's figure a way out to get that conversation going.
So just for clarification purposes, I'm gonna ask, because I was listening and you said you communicate to residents that it's their thing to clean up, so you mean the province's thing to clean
Exactly.
up? I'm just
Yep.
clarifying that.
No, you're right.
Okay, Councillor Kush.
Through to the Reeve, given that you are our May rep also, is as far as the budget for the cleanup and stuff. I know we're not going to be only municipality that's obviously facing this, and you know, decisions on where they could better spend their cleanup money and the budget, so they have it in there. Is this something that maybe we could move through the RMA to the province to try to get maybe action on from the province, a little bit more funding for cleanup?
So can I just respond to this one really quick, because I have an idea. What if we ran this for a year, like for a season, and compared what we're picking up per kilometer on a provincial highway versus a municipal road? Or do we know what that is? And then we've actually got something to go to the province with and say, hey, this is a problem? Sorry, I'm gonna go with Councillor Dean first, because he's had his hand up a while, and then Andre.
So, you know, you asked a question, Andre, and now I'm talking. Maybe he has stats, maybe he has tonnage of garbage that's been picked up or number of garbage bags, but I think everybody understands that the reality is that 651 and
751 and 647.
those three-digit highways are likely, you know, heavily littered. And so administration is suggesting that we abandon all provincial highways. Maybe those three-digit highways we would continue with. And the two-digit Highway 43, we ask we tell our folks that they're not gonna be funded for that, because those three-digit highways are gonna be more littered than, you know, I drive West Mountain Road every day, and it's really not that bad. But I do see a cleanup crew, you know, they come out. I don't drive those three-digit highways, I don't know what they're like. Are they, when the snow melts, are they pretty littered?
You start, especially, you know, we have the transfer station down 751, and It's not that people, I don't think a lot of it are, intentional, but you have garbage in the back of your vehicle or people driving from there to landfill and stuff comes out.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that, administration is asking us just to accept this as information, and they're gonna continue working on this policy. Maybe we should make a suggestion that we include county roads and 3-digit highways.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Andre, and then I'm gonna go to Counselor Williams, because you had your hand up, but it's not up now, so, Andre.
Through the chair to the committee, we do track tonnage. We have that for the last few years. The program is in place for 2023, so it's going to be as it has been in the past. And we're not making a recommendation, we're just bringing it to the committee's attention to see if there is an appetite to make a change. If we make the change that we do the triple-digit highways and leave the double-digit, it's not going to have a big impact on the program. Because Highway 32, 33, we don't do a lot of kilometers on them.
Okay, Counselor Williams.
I was just going to comment on how much garbage, because I usually do 2 kilometers at minimum a year. I get sometimes roped into helping a few different organizations, but you usually get 6 to 8 garbage bags in 2 kilometers. There's a significant amount, and I do a provincial highway, or most of what I do actually is provincial highway. Same with Horse Creek Road. That's county though. So there's quite a lot. If we didn't do it for a couple of years, you would probably really notice it on those highways, but it sounds like we're all heading in the right direction and on the same page with it anyways.
Counselor Cush.
Make a motion, the GMP committee accepts policy 3228, roadside cleanup as information.
Thank you, Counselor Cush. Any further discussion? See any online? Okay, all in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
Okay, that's passed. And we have draft bylaw 594. Andre.
My surface is just a little slow.
Sorry? Yeah, this, this time I was ahead of you, and I got over, just as we were passing it, so, the electronic version is definitely, it's hard to have 2 pages open on the screen at the same time.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Williams, I think you might have your mic open still. Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, at the September 15, 2022 GMP meeting, administration presented the draft road use bylaw. At the time, it included the road use agreement, which forms part of the bylaw. It was identified that there was a request or desire to have public consultation on winter operations and the can't think of the word. Anyways, there was a request for a public consultation, which did take place. The road use, sorry, it's just not coming to me. Oh, sorry, road use agreement forms part of it. There was consultation on that. The road use agreement and the winter operations came back to council, were approved. The bylaw itself, it was identified that Schedule A had yet to be completed, which we have done now. And attached to the RFD are maps that identify all the roads that have speed limits less than 80 kilometers. There's also a chart that's color coded. So the maps are just for reference. The chart is what will form part of the bylaw. It will not be color coded. It'll be simply the roads, what the speed limits are, and the locations, and that will form part of the bylaw. I should also add that there is one addition to that chart. We received a registered subdivision today, so that will be added to the bylaw, and that is Township Road 133A, south of Township Road 585, and that is the alias is the Stanley subdivision. So that was finally registered, and we received that today. So we'll add that.
Okay.
So the recommendation is that the Governance Priorities Committee forwards bylaw 594/22 road use as amended to council for consideration.
Councillor Dean.
I would move the Governance and Priorities Committee forwards bylaw 594/22 road use as amended to council for consideration.
Okay.
Cool. Sorry, guys, my hand was up.
Okay. You can ask a question. I'm going to accept the motion by Councillor Dean. Councillor Wilhelm, do you want to speak to it?
Sorry, unfortunately, I didn't want to speak specifically to the motion. I just had a question for
go
administration. I'm just looking at some of the speed limits that administration has put on here, and I have, I guess, a question for the admin as to the reasoning behind it. So if you look at, say, the main road that drives out to my house, you have Range Road 120 Thompson Road. It is, the proposed speed limit will be 50 kilometers an hour. But then when you get like, so that's the main road, obviously coming off of East Mountain, heading south. And then all the branch roads off of that road have a higher speed limit, like Mountain Springs, they're 60 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure I understand the reasoning behind that.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, Range Road 120 in 2018, the council contracted an engineering firm to do a design for pavement on Range Road 120. As part of that review, it was identified that that first, I think it's 2 kilometers, the geometric design did not allow for an 80-kilometer speed limit. And the recommendation was to reduce that section to 50 kilometers. And council did approve that in, I believe it was spring of 2019. So the remainder of Range Road 120 is 80 kilometers. Once you get past that first 2 kilometers or a kilometer and a half, I think it is.
I think it's the hill?
It says 1.6.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I understand slowing the speed down because of the condition of the road or the condition of how the road was built. It just seemed odd to me, the reasoning. You'd have branch roads coming off of that road with a higher speed limit. Like, these are roads that are inside subdivisions, and they've got higher speed limits than a straight road, like a straight shot main artery, if you know what I mean. It just seemed like it seemed a bit odd to me.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wilhelm. Councillor Kush?
No, I'm good.
Okay, still have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion? I don't see any. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Favor.
In favor.
I'm sorry, I didn't see over here. Okay, thank you. That is carried. So that brings us to our completed agenda. Anyone wish to go to item 7? Councillor Kush.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Councillor Kush. Any discussion? Oh, no, there's no discussion on that. All in favor?
In favor.
Councillor Wilhelm?
I said in favor. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's it. We're adjourned.